Hello and welcome to Throw the Dice, a series in which we discuss and explore GM tips, RPG systems, and general guides on how to get started or engage more with tabletop RPGs. In this video, we will be focusing purely on Pathfinder. However, in future videos, we will look at systems such as Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Stars Without Number, Starfinder, Call of Cthulhu, World of Darkness, Savage Worlds, Rifts, and many more. Today, we'll be exploring why you should play or run the Pathfinder tabletop role-playing game. The Pathfinder role-playing game was created as an evolution of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 and designed by Jason Bullman and the team at Paizo. The system enhanced certain aspects of the rules and mechanics featured in 3.5 and made use of the open game license content. One of the key aspects that enhanced the popularity of the game was its backwards compatibility with other previously released Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 content. This, along with a focus on creating more open content throughout the years of Pathfinder's development, seemed to capture the attention of the community at the time of its announcement. Even today, third-party publishers are still making good use of the open game license to create amazing content for the game, and with the release of the second edition set of rules on the horizon, with the playtest already ongoing and freely available on their website, Paizo look to continue their open and dedicated creation of content for their games. The playtest of the first edition of the Pathfinder RPG was the largest at the time, reportedly having over 50,000 testers of the beta rules alone. This, along with the long history of development of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 and Pathfinder's own 10 years of added content, make this one of the most robust and detailed fantasy role-playing game systems out there. With the second edition being currently playtested, which I myself am taking part in plenty, I thought it would be a good time to look at the first edition as it stands now, with its legacy and passionate player base still around and going strong. First up, what do you need to play? Pick up the core rulebook, which covers everything you need to know for the rules, and also search up some monsters in one of their many bestiaries. I'd suggest picking up the beginner's box. It's relatively cheap and has everything you need to get started or to try out the game with friends for the first time. At its core, Pathfinder is similar to Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. This is due to it being heavily related to the game, an evolution, as previously stated. The basics of it are as follows. You roll a 20-sided dice and add your relevant modifiers to the roll to get your result. Let's say Warrior 1 makes an attack check against a goblin. They roll a 7 and have a base attack bonus of 1, plus their strength mod of 2. Add those two numbers together, you get a 3. Add that to your roll, and bam, your final attack check is 10. Here's another example. The rogue decides they want to sneak around a group of guards sticking to the shadows and weaving behind boxes and crates that are conveniently placed in the center of town. They roll one 20-sided dice and add their modifiers once more. The rogue has a total number of 10 in their stealth skill. They add 10 to their dice roll, and that forms their final result. Now, the modifiers are a bit more complicated than I can cover in a short time, and there's a lot to get onto with this video. But needless to say, they are clearly explained as you roll up a character in the system. You will also make use of other dice to roll damage throughout the game, from the reliable D4 to the risky D20. As such, it's a good idea to turn up to the table with a full set of dice. The game can be ran either on a battle mat or without one in a theatre of the mind style. These both have their individual benefits and rules associated with them, but the core book has extensive rules based on running with a battle mat. Due to its design roots in Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, the game has one of the largest and more robust sets of rules. If you want to do something in Pathfinder, there's a good chance there's a rule for it. This vast library of rules is only further expanded through additional source books such as Pathfinder Unchained, which makes suggested changes to certain classes such as the Rogue or Barbarian, to Ultimate Campaign, which focuses on unique sets of rules to add to your campaign to enhance it, such as rules for mass battles, story feats, and even ways to expand on your characters' backstories in-game and have them create more of an effect. This sheer amount of rules can easily make some players or dungeon masters feel a little intimidated by the system. It's understandable as to why, however. Many new players to tabletop RPGs have started out on 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, which is a very accessible, streamlined, and new player-friendly game. making use of years of experience and multiple editions of Dungeons & Dragons to come to this set of rules. The more streamlined feel of the rules makes them much less intimidating when compared to the large tome of rules presented to you with Pathfinder. But despite this, I would say that you should give Pathfinder a go. Whilst there are certainly many rules involved in the game and the complexity can seem a little intimidating at first, if you look at what you need to be able to play the game, the attributes, skills, classes, how skill challenges work, and how combat works, then you can get started almost right away. Many rules won't come into play, and I have found that when they do, it's easy to look the rules up if you're unsure on them, and if you need them to guide your judgment. As with any game, you can make use of the rules as a guideline, and you can make your own decisions on those that you don't want to deal with. Just make sure that you explain this to the players before you begin play. The rules stated in the many books available for Pathfinder, along with the vast amount of choice, form what is to most players and GMs the main appeal of the game itself. It promotes individuality in characters heavily. 2 rogues can be rolled up and take the same class, but then diversify themselves through the use of feats, which are small abilities or features you gain at certain levels. One rogue could choose to be a hard-headed brute who smashes things to gain bonuses on intimidating people, whereas another could make use of the fighting finesse feat and be a master swordsman, making use of a rapier and their dexterity to win the day. Ultimately, when it comes to the complexity of the Pathfinder role-playing game, I would rate it a solid 7 out of 10 if I had to give it a scale of reference at all. I would say that most of that complexity comes from the choice that is offered, and it's by no means a bad thing. If you want a game that's complex and deep, with a lot of choice for characters, systems, monsters, classes, and races that just can't be matched by any other system's offerings, I would say to pick it up and give it a go. Read the basics and learn the rest as you play, and run the game. Pathfinder is a great system, and the first fantasy role-playing game I ever ran. I had played 4th edition beforehand, but I'd never personally ran the game, always wanting something that promoted more roleplay than that edition did, despite its robust combat system. With Pathfinder at first, I felt like many others do, who I have personally spoken to about the system. You're encountered by a large book full of many rules, and it's a little intimidating. But as soon as I actually sat down and started reading the book, I soon found myself drawn in by the possibilities and depth that the game offered me. Within no time at all, I started picking up and learning the rules quite organically as I ran the game itself. I've ran the game for over 6 years to date, and overall have found myself revisiting it time and time again, running games with players who seek a more complex or detailed character and challenge than offered by some other fantasy systems. Personally, whilst the game seems at first to be intimidating, I would say that it's a great system to pick up and play for any DMs who have ran Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, or even 4th edition, Savage Worlds, or any other games that are more streamlined. Overall, I enjoy the system and will continue to alternate between this system and 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons for my fantasy games. I find that both have their unique appeal and purpose, that both benefit different types of players and DMs. If you want to try the 1st edition of Pathfinder and have not yet due to its seeming complicated or inaccessible, I would say to give it a shot. Try running a pre-made adventure or picking up the starter set just to give it a go with a few friends. The designers and writers at Paizo really guide you through the process of learning to run and play the game, especially through the starter adventures, and the game can be an absolute joy to run and play. The current playtest of the 2nd edition of Pathfinder's rule set is currently ongoing. The rulebook is free and available on the Paizo website. I would also say to give that a look if you want something that's slightly more rules heavy than Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but not quite as complex as 1st edition Pathfinder, while still offering a lot of character choice. Also, go check out the new channel created by the designer of Pathfinder, Jason Bullman, where he discusses games design at length. The link's in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this dive into the Pathfinder RPG. I'll be making more content on other systems as the weeks roll by, from fantasy systems such as Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and Dragon Age RPG to sci-fi systems and even horror systems. Until next time, this has been Madical with Throw the Dice. I hope you enjoyed this video and it helped you even in a small way. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit subscribe and to comment below on any of your own personal favourite systems or any of your experiences with Pathfinder. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Finally, I'd like to thank everybody for subscribing and liking the video and having some discussion below the last video. I've really enjoyed talking to a lot of you and getting to know what systems you enjoy and what you're looking at. I've had a few comments on different types of systems that I haven't yet read on, which I'm very much looking forward to reading on and maybe doing a video like this on in the future. Thank you very much for subscribing. It's been amazing growth in the past week. I hope I can keep delivering content that you enjoy and hopefully will be helpful in even a very small way. I'm very passionate about tabletop gaming and RPGs especially, and I'd love to do more of these. So until next time, thank you once again, and goodbye for now.